Colin's back on his SMU bullshit.
What do you mean stop? They're going to be favored over Michigan.
The Big Bets on Campus podcast.
All right, here we go.
Welcome to the new BCS Week 7 edition. I'm Stuckey. Joining me are the other two members of the new BCS, Brett McMurphy and Collin Wilson. As we do each and every week, early in the week, we will talk some high-level topics, do a little trivia, and we'll even hear an excerpt from Collin's Monday conversation with Mr. Johnny Manziel, who got some love on the air. I was hyped for the Vandy Alabama game, and sideline reporter comes on and starts talking about how Diego Pavia watches Johnny Manziel highlights before every game. I was like, wow, this is my two worlds colliding right here. So we'll get to that. We'll talk some Pavia in a minute, but Brett, hope you're going to be safe this week. What are your plans for the hurricane down in Florida?
Hurricane proofing my windows as we speak, and then getting the hell out of Dodge. So Tampa has not had a direct hit in over 100 years, and basically everything that got flooded, not in my neighborhood, but in like South Tampa, is basically lining the streets right now, waiting for sanitation to pick it up. So basically all that stuff's going to be flying around, and they've had mandatory evacuations. So we are, I'm wrong on my predictions.
Are you driving out?
Yeah, we're getting out. So we're going across the state, got a hotel. I'm usually wrong on my predictions on this show, so hopefully I'm wrong again, but I'm afraid we're going to get annihilated. So prayers and thoughts, and because, it looks bad. So, we'll find, if I'm on Saturday's show, I made it. If not, just don't make too much fun of me going forward.
You can always come up here.
Wednesday night's the key time, I guess. We'll find out.
You can always come up here and lose a round of golf to me if you want. Brett, do you see any chance? We're recording this on Monday for everybody that's listening. Is there any chance this South Florida game is happening on Friday night with Memphis?
Well, so once it goes through, it'll be fine. The issue is,
how do they get there?
Well, they can get here Thursday. It will blow through, I think, by Thursday. So they could come in. Heck, they could come in Friday morning if they had to get the game played. I guess the Bucks are traveling up to Atlanta to spend all week. Then they're going to fly back down Saturday for whoever, who they're playing Stuck this week. I don't even know. So yeah, Friday it'd be fine to play unless the city's just 6 feet underwater. This is where the stadium's at. The stadium will not flood. The stadium will not have any flooding. But if the whole town's underwater, kind of a bad precedent. Bad vibes deal if you're trying to play a college football game when the rest of the town is being battered. But Friday should be beautiful. It's just the days leading up to that.
I feel like it just makes more sense to move it to Saturday. Like, just give it an extra day for.
Yeah, then you get TV contracts involved, and that plays a big part of it because it's a standalone on Friday. I don't know how much concern there is with USF playing Saturday, Bucks playing Sunday back to back as far as field conditions. They don't line the fields for USF or put the USF markings on the field except at midfield. So it's a real easy switch as far as that. But I think that probably goes into it also. But we're taping this Monday night. As of Monday night, it's a still wait and see situation. They haven't said they're definitely going to play it. They haven't said it's definitely going to be postponed. I guess they want to get a little bit more information.
Yeah, Ryan Silverfield said, well, if we have to play on Venus, we will do that. Venus, 850 degrees, 150 mile an hour winds. Get in front of the under if that's the case.
They should have played Navy on Venus, by the way.
The other question I had for you is, like, I see some of the traffic and, like, is getting out of there. How much of a mess is that? And then, like, does gas, like, do the gas stations run out of gas sometimes?
Well, since this is a Hurricane call-in show, Yeah, my wife and I went to get gas today. We were in Orlando with our daughter who goes to UCF. We were driving back from Orlando. It was free sailing coming back to Tampa. Going the other way, it was bumper traffic from Orlando to Tampa, which is about 70, 80 miles on I-4. I can only imagine what it's like now or tomorrow. It's going to be bumper to bumper. We went to 5 gas stations. 4 were out of gas. We found one that had gas. So yeah,
Wow.
I can only imagine what the grocery stores look like. We're fine. We've got enough stuff. We're leaving though, but yeah, it's crazy. It's just because we just had the major flooding throughout the city on a hurricane that didn't even come close to hitting us. And Tampa's never been hit, like I said, in over 100 years. There's some, Indian, urban legend that Tampa will never get hit because of the way it kind of ducks into Florida. It's hard to get one, but because this one's coming from, directly west as opposed to wrapping
around.
Yeah, it's like, holy crap. And obviously you've seen the models. It's literally, I haven't seen the latest one, but the last one I saw an hour ago, it's, if I zoom in, it's like, oh wow, our house is right in the middle of the cone. So, yeah, it's.
What is your plan for getting out? Like 1 a.m? Is that or like midnight? Is that the best time to try to?
Yeah, we'll go sometime tomorrow morning and get out. I mean, I think we'll be fine. I mean, we just got to get there by, spend all day driving, get there, Tuesday night. And you're fine because last I saw, it's not going to hit till Wednesday, late Wednesday night or Wednesday evening. So. Yeah, if you had being hijacked and your house getting leveled by a hurricane, cash it in. But hopefully, I am joking, but hopefully, look, not just me, but everybody survives because the flooding's going to be insane. You'll see videos on Bayshore in Tampa. I mean, it rains for 10 minutes, that street floods, and that is right there by downtown Tampa. That thing, they're estimating it'll be 6 to 8 feet underwater.
Wow. All right. Well, our thoughts, on behalf of myself, our thoughts are with you and for everyone else down there. Stay safe, get out of Dodge. And thinking of all of you guys in the path all week. But let's move on to some college football topics. We mentioned Diego Pavia. He's on a new team having a ton of success at Vandy. Kurt Cignetti at Indiana took his talents from Harrisonburg up to Bloomington. He's having a ton of success. Indiana's 6-0 now, already over their win total, bowl eligible, with maybe some outside college football playoff aspirations. Who's having the better season between the two? And could your opinions change? For me, it's got to be Cignetti. I mean, he hasn't lost a game yet. Pavia lost to Georgia State. So yeah, I mean, Vandy's not going anywhere this year. It's got to be Cignetti. Guy's a wizard. All he does is win. Google him. Brett, how about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Diego had the moment of the year, obviously. I tweeted earlier this morning, Vanderbilt is like selling pieces of the goalpost. They're selling personalized end zone pylons. They're signing game worn helmets, game footballs, you name it. Everything must go. I guess you got to strike when the iron's hot. But yeah, I agree, Stuck. I'd say Cignetti. But it's funny, you look at their schedule. They've been favored in every game, and you're like, well, wow. Basically, he's won every game he's supposed to. But I wouldn't agree with that because if Indiana did not have the success they had early on, they would not have been favored at UCLA. Probably wouldn't have been favored at home against Maryland, or that's probably close to a pick. I don't know what the preseason projections were. At Northwestern, I'm not sure what that would have been. But yeah, first bowl appearance since I think 2020, if I remember correctly, with Tom Allen. So I agree. I don't think they'll get to the playoff, but certainly, Collin was next to me at Big Ten Media Day, cash your ticket, and he talked some shit, but you know what? He has backed it up.
Yeah.
Collin?
Yeah, I mean, for me, listen, no one's having a better week than Diego Pavia. Not just winning that game, not getting comparisons to Johnny Manziel. I mean, these are big things, but he just tweeted out his agent's phone number for NIL requests. Now, what world do you live in where you're like, here's the phone number for my agent, send all NIL requests. Diego Pavia is open for business. As much as I would like
Vandy return. That's he included that in his tweet as well. That's the new world college football. You have a big performance like that, you can get paid.
Yeah. Yeah, and so Diego's looking to get paid, and he will get paid. We should have him on the show next week. I don't know what his fee's going to be, but my goodness, I'd like him to say that we're turned. I actually got to go with Indiana, though. If you look at Brett's latest bowl projections, he's got Indiana against Texas A&M in the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl on New Year's Eve. We all know how prestigious the Cheez-It Bowl is. But no, from a team perspective, Cignetti essentially came to Big Ten Media Days, threw his balls on the table and said, let's go. And he's done nothing but that. And he has such a great scheduling spot against Ohio State coming up. So I'm going to go with Indiana. But, man, Diego's cashing in on this moment.
Hey, Stuck, real quick. We're talking about Diego. I'll pronounce his name one of these days. Diego had the best week of the season. Would you agree Malachi Moore had the worst week of the season?
That was embarrassing.
Did you see the video? Well, the video when they tried to pull him out of the game.
No,
he would. Yeah, they sent a player in to replace him. Moore waved him off.
Did he throw an earpiece?
Womack that takes 2 or 3 steps on the field, waves him to come off. He waves him off. DeBoer takes a couple of steps and is animated. He waves him off. He never comes off the field.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't
and obviously
see that.
You saw the kicking the football and all the different things. Yeah.
He had the cheap shot. He smashed Pavia's head into the ground, and then at the end another one, and then he was I think he was throwing his mouthpiece.
This is not a freshman.
He's a captain.
Yeah, that was embarrassing. Does he get? That's something Saban would cut you for. Wow. You're off the team. That was a horrible look. He probably was the loser of the week. If Pavia was the winner. You mentioned Texas A&M and the Cheez-It Bowl, but I was going through I was trying to project my college football playoff rank and see what they would look like looking into the futures board, which we'll get to next. I had Texas A&M as the first team out as of right now. They're close for what they've done so far.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting with because they lost to Notre Dame. I think that would you agree with this, Brett? A&M goes 10-2, they're in.
Not if they're being compared against Texas A&M. What if Texas A&M?
No. I'm saying if Texas A&M goes 10-2 in the SEC.
Oh, my bad. Yeah. I mean, I know they have Texas left.
LSU.
Their schedule. Yeah. So the LSU. So that means they're going to get at least one more ranked win, LSU or Texas, and then you lose the other one of those. Yeah, I would put them in at 10-2. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then that obviously hurts Notre Dame. I'll ask you guys. You guys are the experts. Alabama, what's their final record? You saw them escape against USF. You saw them exposed against Vandy. Second half against Georgia. What do they end up at? I have no clue. I still have them in my projections, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah. So Alabama from here on out, they're going to be within a field goal with Tennessee. Huge two touchdown favorites against Missouri. About 5.5 against LSU. Mercer's a joke. About 7 against OU, and then Iron Bowl. No matter how big that spread is, it's still the Iron Bowl. So really, there could be 2 more losses here. Legit, Tennessee. A little bit of a favorite against LSU, but and Oklahoma's a touchdown favorite. So there's spots here to lose. But I would go with. I'll still stick with 10-2. I will still stick with 10. This is still the most explosive offense.
Yeah.
The thing is that Alabama got I've been saying that they were pretty fortunate against USF. Then Wisconsin's quarterback gets hurt. They escape against Georgia. There's holes, especially on this defense. The thing is, though, if you look at if you say, okay, Bama wasn't as good as we thought. If you look at their schedule, what happened this past weekend? Tennessee loses at Arkansas. Missouri gets embarrassed. Those 2 teams drop in the power ratings. South Carolina gets blown out. Oklahoma, are they going to have any guys left? They haven't looked great. Auburn hasn't looked great. So the rest of their schedule And it's not like LSU has lived up to expectations. So the rest of their schedule, while tough, a lot of those teams look a lot more vulnerable than some may have originally thought. So I'll say the swing game is, I'll say 10-2. The swing game is that Tennessee game at Tennessee. Can Nico, who hasn't been great, can he, get it together to take advantage of that Alabama secondary? That game's in 2 weeks. We'll break that down. But that's pretty big because that Missouri game now looks a lot easier. So, I'll say 10-2.
You could join me on South Carolina this weekend?
I don't know. I haven't got to that game yet. I would lean that way at 21.5, just from a numbers perspective.
I mean, I would tell everybody out there with this South Carolina game, the problems that they had with USF and facing mobile quarterbacks, if Lenora Sellers and Raheem Sanders have success this weekend and they cover that number, there's going to be problems coming up here. Oklahoma, if Michael Hawkins Jr. has a full boat of wide receivers, that's a problem. Peyton Thorne, we know, runs outside zone really well with Auburn. So I would say as a Bama futures holder, if you have any tickets, I do, keep your eyes on the South Carolina game this weekend, specifically what they do to stop the RPO with Sellers.
South Carolina just can't get behind. Like I tweeted that out against Ole Miss. I was just like, South Carolina is the opposite of built to play from behind. So they have to just keep that relatively close early, because then it can get ugly. It could just snowball. That's the only thing that would worry me there. But let's talk some futures. Going down the futures board, NIU at 10-1 intrigues me. The MAC is a mess, and this is a big game for them against Bowling Green. If they win that, they're going to be right in the mix. So I think you want to get ahead there. I also would mention maybe Utah, 5-1 to win the Big 12. We don't know on Cam Rising. Whittingham came out and said, he said, we'll see, blah, 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 the same old story, blah, 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 blah. He also said that, at some point, they would just turn it over to Isaac Wilson at quarterback if it's, taking a while. Good luck. If you can read the Utah tea leaves, you're a better man than I, or better man or woman than I am. I don't know, but I will say if Cam Rising does come back this week and is healthy and they beat Arizona State in convincing fashion, that Utah number at 5-1, that's not going to be there anymore. So I would think that if you have any interest in Utah, this would be the week. That's probably how I would play that Utah Arizona State game with the uncertainty. I'd rather have the upside of just a Utah to win the Big 12 ticket. I still show. I mean, I just really like Clemson, but they continue to come down. But I still think they're better than Miami to win the ACC. And Penn State, I still think Penn State around 5-1 to win the Big Ten. Oregon or Ohio State, one of them has to lose this weekend. So what does that mean? That's just going to increase Penn State's chances of getting to the Big Ten championship. They host Ohio State. So Ohio State loses those two games, they're out. Maybe not out of the college football playoff, but they're out of the Big Ten championship game in all likelihood, because they're going to have a loss to Oregon. They're going to have a loss to Penn State for tiebreakers. I'm saying if they do lose these two games, in order to jump either of them, they'd have to lose. You'd have to have Oregon you'd have to have Oregon or Penn State lose 3 games in conference, which isn't going to happen, I don't think. I'll tell you one future I don't like. Michigan 55-1 to win the Big Ten. I do not like that.
I love my underline there, by the way.
Yeah, the under looks good. No college football playoff looks good. So shout out Michigan. Indiana is actually the 4th best odds at 20-1. So Colin, what do you got? You looking anywhere?
Well, yeah, the team. Let me just get this mentioned in before I go with the team that we should bet on. ULM.
It's got to be better than last week. You guys went JMU to make the playoff. They lost to UL Monroe.
I wish I would have had ULM 90-1 in my pocket, damn it. But I will say the ULM is 40-1 now. But, huge game against Louisiana. The team that you should be buying, if you didn't get them during the summer, is SMU. They are 6-1 to win the ACC. And you say they can't catch up with Clemson and Miami. If you look at strength of schedule, this is the easiest strength of schedule of any team left in that conference that's going right now. Take a look at some of these projected spreads. Duke, they should be 10-point favorites. Pitt, touchdown favorite. Boston College, 16-point favorites. Virginia, 11-point favorites. Look, the Cal game's at home. It's in Texas. It's not out in Cal. SMU has the cakiest, easiest schedule of any other team in the ACC. That's by remaining strength of schedule. And that's by these point spreads that I'm looking at. So there's a case to be made that it is not going to be Miami and Clemson in that ACC championship game, that SMU is going to play a role here too.
Colin's back on his SMU bullshit. Brett, are you seeing anything out there in the futures market or that you would target?
Colin, is that some smoke behind you? Are you burning your UCF Big 12 tickets? What's going on back there?
Southwest Conference, we have to stick together.
Look, all right, yeah, okay, we missed on JMU. You want to go really? Here's a wild one. I don't even know what the number is. You guys can tell me. I know everybody's on Boise to get the Group 5 bid. Jeanty's going to rush for 1 billion yards. Probably will. They still have to go at UNLV. They still have to play Oregon State. I don't think either of those are automatic wins. They have to go at San Jose State, the spread and shed with Coach Ken, our boy. So yeah.
By the way, Brett, I will say though, at Oregon State, one of the worst rush defenses in the country. If you're looking for a Jeanty Heisman moment, we'll talk about that in a moment. But go ahead.
Okay, so I think Boise stumbles somewhere. You know who's not going to stumble? If Matt Mitchell, our great producer, can play the Star Spangled Banner as I give this take. Army. Don't laugh. If this is a big if. I don't know what's bigger odds. Army to get to the college football playoff or Army on the money line against Notre Dame. Because if Army beats Notre Dame and they win the American and they're undefeated, I don't care. You can tell me how bad their strength of schedule is. There's no way the committee members are going to keep Army out of the college football playoff. No way. Unless Boise's one loss. If Boise has 2 losses, that opens the door and they can justify it. Army is going to get such preferential treatment that you will not believe with that selection committee if they can get past Notre Dame on November 23rd. They should not be challenged the rest of the way.
Wow, that would be something.
Crickets.
I think ECU just got blown out by Charlotte, which is not a good look. But ECU does have a really good run day. That game could be tricky, but yeah, the schedule is so easy. I thought about playing them to win the American before the season, and I wish I did. Unfortunately, I didn't, but I'm rooting for that to happen. So it could be just a fun ticket to have, too. Go ahead, Colin. Do you want to add anything?
Army 20-1, or you can take your chances on an Army money line ticket on a spread that projects at about 18 against Notre Dame.
Yep. I will say, Brett, have you thought about this? If Boise State doesn't get tripped up and they continue to win, and the Big 12 winner, like there's just more chaos in the Big 12. So say the Big 12 winner has like 3 losses or something. And what if the Big 12 winner, who knows who it could be, but Boise with a bye? Like that's a possibility, right?
Yeah.
Like the Group of 5 champion get a bye.
Yeah, they can't. Yes, the 5 highest ranked champs, the highest 4 get a bid. So yeah, if it's Sun Belt, if it's Mountain West, whoever it is. And then with the in your scenario, probably the Big 12 would not have a team in the top. You would need somebody in the top 10 or the top 11 to avoid getting the number 12 seed. And so yeah, they would probably they could be a 12 seed. Playing at the SEC or Big 10 runner-up.
That would be wild.
You have, what do we get? Army in there, and Boise has a bye. You want to talk about a wild first expanded conference?
Then the Big 12 would be shut out of the play. In that scenario, if you're saying Army and Boise both got in, then obviously one of them is going to be in the top 10. Both of them would have to be in the top 10 or 12, or just ranked higher than the Big 12 champ. So yeah, if there is total, cannibalization in the Big 12, that's a very real scenario. And look, Navy's basically got the same schedule Army does. They also have Notre Dame. They both could meet. We talked about it last week in the American Championship, and whoever wins that game would have a good shot. And then the next week's Army Navy game, the bids will be announced then. So it doesn't matter if they lose, so they can't shuffle back down in the ratings. So yeah, the Big 12, who knew the Big 12 would have all their hopes set on Colorado?
Moving on to Heisman market. Yeah, Colorado in the mix now too. It's wild. I mean, this year's wide open. The teams at the top aren't as dominant as we've seen in years past. Like, how can you not be a fan of the expanded college football? Like, just from a fan perspective, from an entertainment perspective, talking about stuff like this, from a betting perspective for futures, and then we just get more meaningful games. Come on. People that are against it are crazy. Heisman market. Jeanty, now the favorite. Around, plus 240, plus 250. Travis Hunter. Brett, who you pushed for last week. Second.
Still pushing.
Plus 320. Then you got Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, Dylan Gabriel, Carson Beck, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers. I think with so much uncertainty, if I had to look at this board, if I had to make a bet right now, I would maybe look. I mean, maybe this is the low point on Dylan Gabriel if they beat Ohio State, right? So like that would be my case for him, but not someone I'm interested in backing. The same, you could say the same for Carson Beck, but Carson Beck has who's Georgia got this weekend again? I was just looking at this game. I was just looking at their schedule. Mississippi State. So nothing's going to change there. He could just rack up numbers. But there's going to be other bigger games this week. So I think maybe you wait on Carson Beck because they go to Texas next week. If you want to get ahead of Carson Beck potentially, I think other people could jump. Like what Carson Beck does against Mississippi State, don't think it's going to move the needle. I would be most curious with that same game, but he has a high profile game this weekend too, is maybe Quinn Ewers. Now, I just don't know if he can win it with not playing every game. But they have some high profile games. And like, I know that they're 2 touchdown favorites against Oklahoma. That's still like a game that's going to get a lot of attention. It's still Oklahoma. And then you have Georgia. So like, there's some opportunities here for Ewers to jump up, but missing a couple games to injury, like would that be unprecedented, unlikely? Brett, I'll ask you first. Like, what do you, how would you, we're all Heisman voters here. I haven't really thought about it too much, but it's an odd market this year. We have a wide receiver and a running back at the top. Most of the time it goes to a quarterback. Does Ewers missing a couple of games, how much tougher does that make it for him?
Obviously, it's not a requirement you play in every game, and maybe it's just coincidence, but you have to, I think I mentioned this last week, you have to go back to 91. I think it was when Florida State's Charlie Ward won. The last Heisman winner that did not play every game. The challenge for Ewers is, and yet you laid it out perfectly, Stuck, but also are voters thinking, well, yeah, you know what? Texas is that good. Arch Manning did the same thing Ewers did. So it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. They're going to put up those numbers. It's not like Ewers is playing up here in Texas was down here with Manning. I think that may impact him. I just think now, again, all the numbers, obviously Jeanty's different because if he can break Barry Sanders' record, that's something that's totally different. But everyone else, throw for 40 touchdowns and, run for 15. All these numbers are just minutia now. I don't think it doesn't matter to anybody. I think it's more than ever before. It's kind of the narrative. Who is, quote, the guy? And kind of like you said, you've got a running back and a wide receiver at the top. Well, the wide receiver is also playing defensive back and is playing 90% of the snaps. And it's kind of weird because all the other Heisman guys, like you said, well, we need to get Carson Beck before if they beat Texas. What I think, again, we'll see. What I think with Colorado, they don't have to win out for Hunter to have a legitimate chance to win it. Like if they win 8 games, obviously 9 would be huge. If they win 8, I think that's enough. So I don't think like Colorado goes out and loses to somebody. They got Kansas State this week. If they lose to Kansas State, I don't think they're going to say, oh, Travis Hunter, he's a bum. He's no longer the guy. He's still the guy. As long as he can make big plays defensively, continue to be a presence on offense, he's always going to be there. And he's kind of going to give you that outlier, different kind of candidate that maybe people want, that people are tired of giving it to the highest rated player that's a quarterback on a team that's going to the playoff. And you're like, well, duh, that's Jeanty. I agree. But the biggest challenge for him, we saw his upcoming schedule. He's not going to be on national TV as much as everyone else. They're going to be in different windows. They're going to be, West Coast time zones, whatever. I think that's a challenge too. I think he will be a popular, I'll put him second or third on my ballot. He deserves a trip to New York. I'm not sure the majority of voters will pick him. I could be wrong. That's not fair, but because of the strength of schedule, I think that hurts him the most. That's why I think because of all these different things going on, Milroe was plus 200 last week. He throws a pick six, he loses a fumble. Now he's plus 1,000. That's 1 week. So there's going to be a lot of movement. But I just think because Travis Hunter is not going to be impacted by wins and losses as much as everybody else or statistics, he just has to go out and play every play like he's been doing, make some plays, Colorado pick up some more wins. And I think he's in a really, really good spot.
Yeah, I think eight wins is like a good benchmark.
I mean, they're projected 5.5, I think.
Yeah, so I think if you get to 8, like that can like fill a requirement that some voters, including myself, would have, right? Saying like, well, he was great, but your team didn't really do well, which could have prevented him from getting votes. So I think 8 wins would be. I will say though, it's like he's playing so many snaps and he's playing both sides. I think that should help him, but. Does he ever wear down? Like, and then he also has double the injury risk, which is something to keep in mind. Like, especially like you're putting that much wear and tear on your body. Does his production dip, or does he suffer an injury and miss games? That's something just at least to note now that he's, it's different when he was a longer shot. Now that he's sitting around 3-1, that has to at least be a consideration. Colin, what are you seeing in the Heisman market?
Well, for me, whenever you're going to bet the Heisman, you need to look at, and you treat them as a stock. You have to look at what the big events are to where they can make a name for themselves and they can show voters and create highlight reels against the best teams in the nation. So for that matter, you're going to give names like Jackson Dart and Carson Beck a pass this week. Their bigger games are coming up on the horizon. Specifically, you're going to look at Georgia next week whenever they play Texas. The team and the quarterback that you need to look at and make a decision on, it's now or never, is Quinn Ewers. Because he has Oklahoma and Georgia consecutively. He's either winning this thing or he's out of it. So the decision on Quinn Ewers needs to come now. I would not get involved. I think 20-1 is a little bit too short with these 2 games. I'd probably take a rolling money line card. But there's another quarterback out there. Let me see if you can guess who this is, Stuck.
Colin, I am glad that you just listened to Brett and I share our thoughts, and then while you were spaced out looking at the odds boards, and then just repeated my exact take on the Quinn Ewers thing. So
well, I'm just trying to make it easier for our editors to save some time here on the cutting floor.
Okay, do you want me to guess a quarterback?
Yeah, I want you guys to guess a quarterback. So he's 5th in passing. He has a 14-2 TD to INT ratio. His team is undefeated. He's in a power conference, and he's going to be favored over the second biggest game of their year. And then their biggest game of the year, they're going to be pretty big dogs, but there's a potential chance this team is a minimum 10-2, maybe 11-1, and this quarterback is 5th in passing yards right now. He's 60-1 on the board.
I mean, I originally was going to say Aller, but he doesn't qualify for those.
Former MAC quarterback, if that helps.
A former MAC quarterback?
5th in passing right now, yes.
Who's a former MAC? Oh, fucking Rourke.
Yeah.
For Indiana.
14-2 TD to INT. What do you mean stop? They're going to be favored over Michigan. They're going to be favored over Michigan. They are not an underdog except for Ohio State. The rest of the schedule. I mean,
what's his Heisman moments going to come against FIU? They don't play anyone. You just mentioned it because they got if they beat Ohio State, yeah, he could jump up into it. And he has a really good game.
He's 450 yards off Cam Ward. He's 14-2 TD to INT. Just passing. He's got 2 rushing touchdowns. I'm not saying this is getting, but for a 60-1 with a schedule where you're only going to be an underdog to Ohio State, like this is the formula that we look for.
Brett, do you have any thoughts here? The Indiana quarterback winning the Heisman.
I agree with Collin. I think, but this literally would be coming out of nowhere.
There's no hype there. There's no hype for Rourke. It's all about.
It would start. It's not like you need to be it's almost better to be kind of out of sight, out of mind, to be honest. So Collin may be onto something. I mean, if he beats Michigan and Ohio State back-to-back weeks, I mean, why would he not be in the mix?
I agree with that take. Yes,
but
he's gonna win at Indiana's winning at Ohio State.
He's 10-2 is not going to get it done. 12-0 Big Ten title game. He has got a legit chance. But then I think then you got to go 13-0.
I agree with that. But I don't think Indiana's winning at Ohio State. Collin bet against Indiana, and then he was hurt. Now he's trying to find ways to
damn front
roll your money line for the next 7 games on Indiana. You'll make more.
Yeah, I just don't know if there's enough like hype and attention. Like your games against Michigan State and Purdue, that one's gonna hurt him. You're like, no, if he wins at Ohio State, yeah, but like home against Purdue at the end of the year, like when everyone else is having these big games, it's like, oh, Indiana's home against Purdue, the corpse of Purdue. All right, let's move on to a little source of Stumper.
Here we go. Source of Stumper. Whether you like it or love it, you can blame Matt Mitchell. We have a little deal here. Every time Missouri loses a game, because his Tigers have lost a game, he's got to provide the question. So Missouri lost. I don't know if you heard or not. Okay, this past weekend, 3 top 10 teams lost to unranked opponents for the first time since 2016 on November 12th. On that date in 2016, 5 top 10 teams lost to unranked opponents. Okay? The teams that ranked teams that lost, Clemson lost to Pitt. So write down Pitt. Michigan lost to Iowa. You want to keep Iowa. Washington lost to USC. Auburn lost to Georgia. A&M lost to Ole Miss. Of the 5 unranked winners, Pitt, Iowa, USC, Georgia, and Ole Miss, the only starting quarterback not selected in the NFL draft was Shea Patterson of Ole Miss. Okay,
this is complex.
The starting quarterbacks for Pitt, Iowa, USC, and Georgia went on to be drafted. In 26, they led their teams to upset wins in 2016 against top 10 ranked opponents. So I'm looking for the quarterbacks in 2016 that were selected in the NFL draft for Pitt, Iowa, USC, and Georgia.
An Iowa quarterback was selected in the draft.
Yes. That should be worth 100 points. Collin, you want to...
What's the score?
Yes. Don't want to forget that. Stuckey's leading 14-6.
So Collin, you're first.
Collin missed the extra point. But by the way, we haven't mentioned this once. I feel bad. Congratulations, Collin. Huge win for Arkansas. Pitch in to the $250,000 you got to pay for storming the field. I'm sure it was worth every penny. Nice job, Hogs. Embrace the hog.
Embrace the hog. still don't understand what that means, and I live here. Listen, there's an easy one on this board, and I won't get the other three, so I'll go with Sam Darnold.
There you go. Nice job, Collin. Sam Darnold with USC when they are unranked, they beat Washington. Stuck. We're looking for Pitt, Iowa, or Georgia.
Pitt,
Quarterbacks.
Iowa, Georgia. And was it a certain draft that they were drafted in? Like
they weren't necessarily taken in that draft, but they started though in those games. So it's not like they were,
Yeah. I mean, this is probably too early. This is too late, but the only time I had a competent quarterback was Ricky Stanzi.
No, that's not.
But that was too late. Like he was earlier than that. Collin?
I don't want to give away. I think I know the Iowa quarterback. The problem is I know the team he went to, and the team, and that team I can only think of a quarterback from Southern Miss.
I'm confused.
So the answer is not Nick Mullins. The answer is CJ Beathard.
CJ Beathard.
Wow,
yeah.
Collin, too.
Because I was thinking Nick Mullins. I was thinking Niners. No, it's
Beathard. Yeah, it was Beathard.
Who did you call him first, Collin? CJ what?
Beathard.
CJ Beathard?
When I type, I always pronounce it the way I type it. So
this is a family show, guys. Come on.
Big Boners on Campus featuring CJ Beathard.
Big Boners on Campus.
Iowa quarterback CJ Beathard, part of Big Boners on Campus podcast.
So we got Pitt and Georgia left?
We do.
Pitt's got to be... How do I not know the Georgia one? Pitt's got to be backup legend Nathan Peterman.
There you go. Stuck on the board. In that game is Matt Mitchell. By the way, Missouri lost. Notes, Deshaun Watson for Clemson in that Clemson-Pitt game threw for 580 yards and still lost to Pitt. I don't think Watson has thrown for 580 yards since that game, including the NFL. Okay, the last one, I'll give you a hint. Georgia quarterback later transferred and finished his career at another school.
See, this is what's screwed. So
2016, but he was the starting quarterback when he beat Auburn.
See, this is what's screwed. So 2016 was Mark Richt's last year, but Justin Fields never saw the field until an SEC championship game. I think he came in on like a fake punt, and that was like 17 or 18.
It's a starting quarterback.
So who was Richt's quarterback his last year? It was Jacob Eason.
Collin wins a week. Wow.
Yes. Wow.
Stuck. The gambling. You go 10-0 on your picks and you lose Source's Stumper. I mean, something's got to, you can't have everything, I guess.
To be honest, I was going to say Jake Fromm was going to be my guess. I couldn't.
But that's who couldn't get out of the way for for Justin Fields. Right?
And Eason he went to Washington. And
Yeah,
Fromm didn't Fromm come from Washington?
Yeah, because we had like 800 Jakes.
Yeah.
There was a Jake.
I
We had
forget.
like 800 Jakes. Yeah.
Jake from
Fromm might
Allstate.
have just been Commanders. I don't know. Yeah, that was
Stuckey's lead cut to 15-9. So Collin gets the Arkansas win. Stuck goes 10-0. I pick my fourth consecutive winner on Green Dot Daily. Social media doesn't know I exist. I'm still waiting for that clip. But congrats to you guys. There's always next week.
All right.
Brett's salty. And he
congrats,
hasn't
Brett.
even traveled across what is it, I-4? He hasn't even
Yeah,
made the I-4
just wait
trip.
till this thing hits and see who you get. Yeah.
All right, one more for the road. We have the ugliest Conference USA weekday action. It gets no uglier than this. I mean, if you got in a lab and you had to come up with the games to put on that were the worst possible matchups, this is what you would come up with. FIU at Liberty, New Mexico State at Jacksonville State, UTEP at Western Kentucky, and Middle Tennessee La Tech. God. I'm waiting on some injury news on Middle Tennessee. Could maybe see them. I mean, La Tech should they really be a 5.5 point favorite here? I don't know. It depends on Middle Tennessee's health. Can I really back UTEP? Ugh, they were. Man, I had them last week. It was ugly. I refuse to bet New Mexico State. I would be inclined to lay it with Jacksonville State. Yeah. I lean FIU. I want to get some Liberty injury info. These games are so bad. Collin, do you have anything? Do you like any of these games?
Well, I know that you were just kind of talking like on the fly here, but Louisiana Tech was the one that caught my eye against Middle Tennessee State. My projection is at about 7, but that's not really why. There is a massive advantage from a pass EPA perspective for Louisiana Tech going against this Middle Tennessee team that near dead last in allowing pass explosives. I know Middle Tennessee's strength of schedule is 26th, but they are horrendous across the board, like dead last horrendous. Dead last in pass blocking, dead last in havoc allowed, dead last in so many things on the defensive side of the ball. I get the schedule plays a part of that, but at least Louisiana Tech was competitive with NC State. I mean, no love for NC State, but at least there was some competitiveness there. So I do think the number can move another point or before we get to kick, but I'm not.
Middle Tennessee State's been real hurt though, which is part of it. But Brett, do you got anything on these Conference USA clusterfucks?
No, I don't. If I can go to Friday, I kind of like Utah State. To steal one of your phrases, we're getting a team at the lowest of low points. They lost to Temple. They gave up 100 points to Boise. But you got UNLV coming off their first loss. I know it was a non-conference game. They've got Oregon State next week, which high-profile opponent. I think UNLV at Utah State. Utah State hung with Utah. Getting almost 3 touchdowns. Well, 18.5, not quite 3. I would lean toward the Aggies here.
It's also worth mentioning that's if you go back to that game, that UNLV game goes to overtime. Their defense is on the field for 1 trillion plays, and now you're heading to elevation. Oh, also, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe, hit that like button. It really helps us out. All right, that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you to Collin and Brett for joining me. Thanks, most importantly, to all of you for joining us. Thanks to our producers on the back end. Make sure you subscribe. Tell a friend, tell an enemy. Leave a review, 5-star review. Do a bunch more giveaways soon. Group of 5 guys will be back midweek for their Week 7 preview. Collin and I will be back on Thursday. We'll record our the 3 and out portion Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, live on our new BBOC YouTube channel. So make sure another reason to subscribe there. Put the notifications on. Episode will be out later that night, and then we'll be back with the live show 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. But thanks for tuning in. It's time for us to go find some winners. Brett, stay safe. Everyone else out there in the path of the storm, hope you all stay safe as well. Catch y'all later. Cheers.